If I can have your attention, please.
Yeah, I think.
If I can have your attention, we're going to call the August Wilson County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order. We have a prepared agenda that's been advertised. If anyone wishes to withdraw at this time, they may do so. And if not, we will proceed with the agenda as it has been published. We have a court recorder here who is taking a record of the proceedings for the county. If you wish to have a copy of that, you may see her and you may get that at your own expense. If you plan to make a statement in front of the board this morning, you need to be sworn in. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give to this board to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Just a reminder, if you have a cell phone, if you would turn it off or silence it or vibrate it. As we proceed, when you come to the podium, we'll have the applicant, and then when you come to the podium, we'll give us your name and address. If you haven't signed in, you can sign in at that time. If you've already signed in, that will be good. I'll also make notice that the planning staff has made recommendations to the board, and we will be referring to those recommendations during our discussions. To the board members, you have the minutes from the July meeting. Are there any corrections or additions or anything to that? If not, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn. Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to
Second.
Second.
Everybody in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right, at this point, we have a public comment period, and we'll also have the public comment period on each and every agenda as we proceed, but I think our county attorney maybe has a comment he wanted to make.
I do. I need to address you on something. The reason I asked to go at this time, I was scheduled this morning to be in court, and I thought I'd ask the judge if I could run over here and do this and then come back. As so often happens, as Ms. Hatcher knows, the case got continued, so I'm here in blue jeans and don't have to go anywhere. Okay. But I don't want to give up my place first on the docket in case I do have to go. What I'm here about is we've been sued, of course, by Akshar Properties over some action that we took as a board. Properties down on Central Pike. It's been several months ago that they were in front of you. But the reason I'm here, just to get to the point really quickly, is their attorney has contacted me and would like to talk about a possible resolution of this matter. And I told him I don't have any authority to do that at this point in time, but I'd like for y'all to tell me it's okay to talk to him. We won't settle anything if we do settle it without bringing it back here to a vote. And you folks will be the ultimate decision maker on that. But I would like to have the opportunity to talk to him about it and see if we can resolve this one. I think I've mentioned to some of you privately and perhaps at least in this meeting once before, this is probably one that needs to be resolved. I'm not sure it needs to hang out there over us. So if y'all are okay with that, I'll proceed on. But I just wanted.
Do you need that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, please, but I mean, I trust you. If y'all just shake your head up and down, it's good for me.
Is there any discussion, any questions?
No.
I will make a motion that we allow the county to represent us in this case, which is already done, and proceed in his best interest, our best interest away.
There you go.
I'm going to second that.
All right, have a motion, a second. Everyone in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll go sit quietly now.
All right, we may need you. Don't go far.
Otherwise, I'll sit quietly.
We may need you. All right, okay, we're now moving into our published agenda. Case number 4190 was deferred from the July meeting. The applicant, Martin Aguilar, is requesting the use of property for a short-term rental. Property is located at 8469 Sundersville Road, Tract 2, Howell property. Property consists of 5.2 acres and is zoned R1 residential. Staff recommendations on case 4190.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to use the property for a short-term rental. Staff has received a business plan stating how the applicant considers using the property, which was one of the things that had some holes in it last month. It was deferred from last month's meeting. I should mention that. If the use is granted, staff recommends that the business plan be made a part of the approval and put the applicant on notice that if they are to add any sort of structure or expansion to the use of the property, they'll need to come back before the board for a plot plan revision, submittal, and revised business plan approval. The business plan does state that the desired numbers of guests allowed per stay is 8, and the home has 4 bedrooms and 4-bedroom approvals through the state of Tennessee septic records, which would, just rule of thumb, two occupants per bedroom is what we've kind of landed on as an interpretation of occupancy capacity where septic is involved for such use request. Typically, the board will allow 2 guests per bedroom, meaning the maximum number of guests would be 8. The business plan states that the caretaker is located 2.5 miles from the property. The Airbnb short-term rental use is listed as a use permissible on appeal in the R1 district. If the property is a minimum of at least 2 acres, this property contains 5.2 acres. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval. If the board approves the request, the applicant will have to make their contact information available to WEMA, the building inspector, and the county sheriff's office. And the applicant will also need to prove that they or the caretaker live within 10 miles, which they've done with their updated business plan, within 10 miles of the property before the house can function as a short-term rental.
All right, who's here representing 4190 Martin Aguilar? Yes, would you want to come forward, please? Yeah.
While they're walking up, I'm also not aware of any nearby educational or child care facilities, which is something that we've been asked by the county commission to begin to look at.
Yeah. All right. Yes, anything you'd like to add or update us?
Well, we have made the changes according to fit with the real size of the house, the bedrooms. And the other extra room the house has, when they bought it, they're going to use it, one like storage and the other like some kind of studio or office. And then there's going to be just really 4 bedrooms trying to fit to the
Right.
what
And
you
you're
order.
in the 4 bedrooms, that means it's
Yeah.
eight
8 pair.
maximum of 8
Yes,
people.
correct.
What is your name? Maria.
Anybody from the board have any questions, comments?
Tom, there's a lot of paperwork in here about septic sewage. Is there an issue with that, or is this just documentation?
No, it's just documentation as far as I know. Karen, do you have anything to add?
It's just documentation.
Okay.
So everything's,
Yeah, there was, they did apply to try to make it a 5-bedroom. There was an application, but there wasn't an approval. So it's still a 4-bedroom.
4-bedroom. That's what's on the business plan, that's what's for us.
Yes, and that's what the house sold for also.
Okay. All right, is there anyone else here in the audience that wishes to speak to this case? Yes, Commissioner?
My name is Lauren Breeze. I'm the County Commissioner for District 18. I'm comfortable with this Airbnb. I haven't had any noise complaints. I did have somebody actually reach out to me because there's a big sign, and so that's how this process started. But they have changed their plan. I think originally they were trying to slate 14, which, you know, of course, I'm uncomfortable with because I don't really want to deal with criminal discharge of sewage. We've been through that road, not with them by any means, but following septic permits is very important.
Absolutely.
And I think that sounds like that's what their plan is, so I'm comfortable with the idea since they have 5 acres and they're not near an educational facility, and they also are going to have 8 people with a 4-bedroom septic. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak to this case? If not, we will close the public comment period. Any questions or anything from the board, motions, questions? I think, Tom, we generally approve these for a 1-year time period, first year, is that correct?
For the benefit of the public, the clause for this particular use on appeal says that they are to be approved for a finite period of time, unlike many uses on appeal which just run with the land. Just by past history, the board on an initial request has typically approved it for a year. I mean, and they'll have to come back in and renew in a year if they choose to try to continue the operation beyond that year period.
The reason we approve them a year at a time is if there are a lot of complaints, or if it's not a good deal for the neighborhood, then at that 1 year, you have to come back in. Even without complaints, you have to come back in, but if there's no complaints, then it's
And
easier to continue forward. All right, thank you. All right, back to the board. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve
Motion
for
to
1
approve.
year.
Second.
Second. Motion to approve for 1 year and a second. Everyone in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next case will be case 4191. Alan Smith is requesting a variance of 10 feet from the rear setback requirement of 20 feet. The existing patio is 11.5 feet from the rear property line. The variance will also allow the existing patio to be enlarged and to be 10 feet from the rear property line. All right. Board of staff recommendations on 4191.
Yes, sir. The applicant is requesting a variance of 10 feet from the rear setback requirement of 20 feet. This is not an older lot of record, with the lot being created in August of 2014. However, it can be considered an irregular shaped lot if you'll look at it, either in the back of the room or on the screens behind you. And it does back up to open space in the form of a golf course. Well, there's actually an open space strip and then the golf course. Staff will note that several other homes in the subdivision have done similar projects, and staff perceives no adverse impact if the variance is granted, given the precedent set. Therefore, staff can recommend approval. You'll notice in the aerial that the house right next to it has a similar patio, and if you were to expand this out, there's several of them down this row that have that.
As far as it's on 2/10 of an acre, and it's in an R1 cluster, does that change anything when it's in a cluster as far as setbacks or anything?
They can establish their own setbacks in a cluster provision development. However, around the perimeter of a subdivision, they're supposed to meet the minimum setbacks of the base zone district. So in this instance, they technically would have to meet the base zone district setbacks.
Okay. All right. All right, if you would, give us your name, please.
Alan Smith. I live at 1 Trinity Court, Mount Juliet.
And anything you'd like to add or say?
No, sir. Everything looks accurate to me.
Any questions from the board for the applicant?
Where is this?
Sir?
What golf course is it?
It is Pine Creek.
Pine Creek, it's
Off of
Master
Logue
Key
Road.
subdivision off of Logue Road.
Yeah.
To your point, though, if it's okay, the lot 15 there, they have done an expansion that I don't know whether or not it was approved or not, but they've actually expanded past where I'm looking to expand. I'm 17, 16 is just to the west of me, and then 15, which is about half on there.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak to this case? If not, close the public comment period and look into the board members.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Everyone in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Case will be case 4192. George McMillan III is requesting to place a storage container and trailer in the 50-foot strip leading back to the property and requesting a variance of 10 feet from the southeast side yard setback requirement of 20 feet. The variance will allow the storage container and trailer to be located in the 50-foot strip and be 10 foot from the southeast side property line. Property is located at 3720 Southeast Taylor Pillar Road. Property consists of 5.01 acres and is zoned A1 agriculture. Staff recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to place a storage container and trailer within the 50-foot strip. So it's roughly, if you'll look at it's roughly in this vicinity. where they're wanting to put it. This is a 50-foot strip going back to what would be the buildable portion of the lot. So, they are requesting to place a storage container and trailer in that 50-foot strip, and requesting a variance of 10 feet from the southeast side yard setback requirement of 20 feet. The reason that the setback on this accessory structure is 20 feet is because there is no principal structure on this property. When we do permit accessory structures without a principal, we require them to meet the primary structure setbacks for a residence, even though it's not a residence. This is an older lot of record, with the lot being created in, this is not an older lot of record, I'm sorry, with the lot being created in March of 2001. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval. Staff will note that on-site review of the property, one of the storage containers was still attached to the trailer. If approval is granted, both containers must be placed on the ground and immobilized if they're to be considered accessory structures. Trailers used for permanent storage are generally not permitted within residential and agricultural zone districts. And that's just based on past zoning violations that we've had where people are storing things in semi-trailers on a residential property.
Can you clarify, I know there's not, but if there was a resident on here, would that would change the setbacks for these?
Yes, it would be 10 foot from the side and rear property lines. However, because this is in the front yard, it still kind of poses, or beyond the front yard actually, because it's outside the setbacks for the front yard, it still poses an issue.
Okay. All right. Applicant, George McMillan?
I think in testimony with my staff, the applicant did state that part of the reason he didn't put it back in the traditional building envelope on the property, I don't know if you can see it on this aerial because it's kind of dark, but it's a forested lot from about here back, and so he really doesn't have.
He doesn't have a road and have access.
Doesn't have a road or access into the rear of the property, right? So if you were looking for a hardship, that could be one.
Mr. McMillan, would you want to come up and speak?
You need to go to the microphone if you
Come
want
up
to
and give us
speak.
your name and. Yeah, give us your name and address, please. Thanks, Justin.
It's George Millennium, 3720 Southeast Taterpillar Road.
Do you understand what Mr. Bashir, the staff, is saying about not having them out in the 50-foot right-of-way?
Right, but I started developing that property in about 600 feet so far. There's a lot of woods to clear up and everything else, and I'm only 600 feet in, so.
Right.
My stormwater department did make me aware, and I'd forgotten to mention this, there is a blue line stream or creek crossing that would also be required to get to this portion.
You say you're 600 feet in.
My trails are parked about right where that yellow line is.
Would you
Where
say
it
you're
cuts across?
halfway in? I mean, I don't.
A third of the way,
Right in there?
front to the back, yeah, right there. Actually, you can see the trailer right there.
Okay, I see. How long do you foresee it taking you to get access to the rear of the property?
Within 3 years, I'm that far, so.
It's taking you 3 years to get there?
It's just me and lawn mowers and shovels, and that's it. And mine financing, of course.
Right.
But also, I want to look over the point, this is A1 agricultural, and it's not suitable for storage containers. That's not what it's zoned for.
Well, that's just where I keep all my stuff. It's not permanent.
No, but it's still A1 agricultural.
Sir, are you, what are you storing in there? Are you storing the stuff that you're using to work on the property?
I have I used to live at 30, I used to live 2 lots over.
Here?
And 2 years ago, I moved out of there. I just basically moved my trailer from that side to my other piece of property. Yeah, it was basically two lots over.
This one?
No, the other way,
This
right
one?
there, yeah. So when I moved out of the house, I just basically took it from one property and put it on the other piece of property.
Gotcha.
It was on my other property that I lived at.
Well, if the stuff in the trailer is being used to clear the property, if you had a building permit for a house or something, we may be able to let that be there on a temporary basis, but if it's more of a permanent storage condition, that's sort of where we're running into
Well, I have,
issues.
I'm dealing with financial deals right now. I have the funding to move forward.
Yes,
I'm doing what I can. Right now, I'm keeping it nice and clean and neat, and for everything inside the trailer where nothing's all spread out, and I keep my place clean and neat. You can go there and look at it.
yes, sir.
Keep my grass maintained. It's a little haven to get away, and, you know, that's what it is right now.
And this may or may not matter, but obviously, do you plan on building here or not? Or that might not even have any bearing on this, just out of
If-
curiosity.
It doesn't perk right now, but I guess if I haul some dirt in there, it could perk. I think the guy said.
Oh.
But the,
I don't know about that, but anyway.
well, how about kind of build something off grid on top of the hill?
Excuse me?
Could you do something off grid on top of the hill?
I don't know. You'd have to talk to the state about the
I don't
septic.
know. I'm just trying to get these things taken
You're
care of
saying
right now.
currently it does not perk.
That's what I was told, yes.
So,
That may be some form of hardship as well, but we would need documentation of that.
I got papers on that.
you have them with you?
I do not, I can get in touch with the, I think it was it Crockett Surveyors?
Yeah. Yes, Paul
Yeah.
Crockett, sir, yes.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
There was a soils test performed on the property,
Yes.
and it
So-
come back as an unbuildable
Yep.
lot.
So what does that entitle him as far as hardships, Tom?
Well, I mean, it could be considered a hardship.
That he can't build on it.
That he can't really build on it, but,
And enable him to put these on a 50-foot right-of-way?
well, we're still back to the question of whether or not we would allow a trailer as an accessory structure that's on wheels without it being immobilized. And that's more of a interpretation on staff's part about how we've viewed accessory structures. A trailer, more or less, can be moved to and fro and everything else. If they want to permit as an accessory structure, it follows suit that it needs to be in a particular location that this board and the inspector's office can approve and not be moved around. Is there anyone, I don't know if anyone else is here to speak on this one or not.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll let some more people speak. Thank you. Name and address, please, ma'am.
Colleen Chapman, 3632 Southeast Caterpillar. I also own 3744 Southeast. I have 2 letters from neighbors. They have real jobs, unlike me, so they couldn't be here. So could I read these very quickly?
Can she read letters from neighbors who aren't able to be here?
Sure, they can't be considered because they're not under oath.
Okay,
You can read them, but like I said, we have to be hesitant. if
okay.
we haven't
And
been
that's,
sworn in.
yes, sir. So Michael Pryor, he lives, if you see the house with the red roofs, that's the other property that we own. We bought from Chuck Stewart mainly. He's an 81-year-old veteran. He's actually in surgery right now. I should be with him, but I'm here instead. He's been harassing him for years, which is why Mr. Stewart came to me and asked me to purchase the property, because my home is on the other side of the house that George owned. So Mike Pryor, his wife has 5 heart stents put in this week, so he's not here either. He says, "Hi, my name is Mike Pryor and currently live at 3778 Southeast Taterpiller Road. I first met Mr. Marmillion approximately 20 years ago. He has a history of disregarding restrictions, removing property markers, and total disregard for adjoining property owners. Mr. Marmillion is a classic example of giving someone an inch and they take a mile. Regardless of what is expected of him as a neighbor to abide by rules, he will disregard them. He has personally relayed to me his intentions are to place a camper-style trailer on the 50-foot right-of-way and dispose of the waste in the creek, which is a blue line stream on the map. Again, it is against my better judgment to allow him to do whatever he is requesting. He is a terrible neighbor, and because he will do whatever he so desires despite the rules, thank you for listening to my concerns, and those are my good neighbors." And we have one from the other one. So when we lived next door and that trailer was in the backyard, George drug it through Mr. Hand's property without permission, got stuck, dug it all up. And he told us he's going to live in it. And I said, well, you can't because the land doesn't perk. It has a perk test. It doesn't perk. It's solid rock. And he said, well, he's going to. And I said, well, what are you going to do about septic? And he said, buckets in the creek. I'm downstream from that creek. My daughter's playing in that creek. My animals cross the creek constantly and drink water from the creek. So it's not really what we want happening. He also told Mr. Pryor that he's going to do the same thing. He has a son he's planning on moving on this. So these storage containers, they've been there for years. He has 2 of them and a trailer. His intent is to live in them. When he put that drive in, and he's not doing this by himself, he has machinery. A company came in, they cleared that whole right away, and about 2 hours, cleared the whole thing. That back field, that's wooded, that's clear. There's plenty of space to get across. That waterway that you're talking about, he filled it with cinder block so that he could drive his truck over it. My 81-year-old neighbor that I mentioned previously went out there because it flooded his property. He has livestock. He lost 2 baby goats, and one of his larger goats got a broken leg because the water was coming in. Stubbornly, he didn't call us for help, and it was a disaster, and he's throwing cinder blocks out of the creek to get the water to flow down. He's moved the property lines all across the border of where that land is, 11 feet off. He's taken all of our property stakes out of the land, moved his own fencing, him and his son. So if you give him this 10-foot variance, which that driveway, now that it's there, floods the property next to it. There's a water, spring-fed, whatever it is, I'm sorry. I didn't want to be here. I don't like doing this stuff. So the top corner of the property, since he put that driveway in.
There's underground spring there.
Yes. It floods that top corner of the property. So when our neighbor.
Talking about up here?
Yes, it floods that. The city came out and they cleared out the culvert for him because it was flooding half of his property, the whole front yard. And this man, I mean, he worked his entire life for this little property, his goats, he came from nothing, and that's his pride and joy, which he hated to sell to me. But when Mr. George here told him that he will outlive him and he will do what he pleases on this right away, the neighbor came to me and asked me to purchase the property, and it will be given to them, who I pray to God will outlive him. So it will be passed down. So it's not simply just putting it there until he gets the money or the means. He has the money, he has the means, he's a licensed electrician, has a great job. The land's already cleared, it doesn't perk, but he has that off-grid, he has every intent on living there and throwing his waste into the creek. And I have a letter from the other neighbors. I don't know if you need to hear it. It's the same thing with
I
regards.
don't think we're allowed to take it into.
Yes, but it's the same thing. They're against it, and they've been neighbors with him for a lot longer than I have. So I think that.
Where do you live?
So I live on keep going to the other side.
The other side?
Yes, right there. So that's, yep. Nope.
This one?
Yes, that's our house, and then we own the property now with the red roofs on the other side. So that's where they want the variance to the property with the red roofs. He has them parked 10 feet within the property line, and you all are asking for that to be okay, and we're saying no. That's where our property is. It's causing flooding. Our neighbor, our now tenant, had to move his buildings with his animals in it because broken legs, dead baby goats, and it's not right. So,
Okay.
my 2 cents.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Anyone else here wish to speak to case 4192? No? Turning back to the board, do y'all have any questions for the applicant? Staff, comments, anything, discussion? There seems to be a lot going on with this particular issue, case or whatever. Tom, did y'all see any evidence and I don't know of anyone living there? And I know y'all didn't go inside of anything,
I
but,
didn't see any campers on the property. There are 3 trailers. I also did not cross the creek because everything we were reviewing at the time was in front of it. But,
right, okay.
I mean, I can go back out there if you need me to.
Well, I don't know that that's necessary.
Shipping containers that were not trailable, shipping containers.
Right. Okay. Yes, Mr. McMillan, if you want to come back up, yes, come back up and we may have more questions for you anyway. ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's a lovely story, but it's not true, but I'll let them say, I'll let them.
Remind everybody's
I'll let
under
them-
oath and
I
everybody's sworn.
will let them, that's between her and God, so it's not my problem.
Do you periodically stay out there or
Nope.
camp out there, spend the night, weekends?
I just spend time on weekends to go in the back, and I do hunting over there. I have a deer stand in the backyard. I don't think I need a permit for that, though.
But you don't live there and you don't ever plan on living there until you actually have a working sewer for the
Correct.
state?
I've never said those things.
Okay.
I've never spoke to that woman since I moved away from the property.
This is just.
That's fine.
us, yeah.
That's fine.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
Is there electrical service to the property?
No.
No electrical service.
All right, thank you. All right, if nobody else has any more public comment, I'm going to close the public comment session and look to the board for,
You know, I'll make a statement first.
yes.
And excuse me if I'm harping on A1, but it's designed for rules and regulations. The county's growing fast. I think in the past, since I've been here, we try to adhere to the A1 regulations. So, and I understand your circumstances, believe me. But based on it being A1 and the circumstances, I'll make a motion to deny the request for
Okay.
variance.
I have a motion to deny, and I have a second. Before we vote on that, and I'll ask for maybe staff, as far as, if we deny this, as far as, do we need to give him a time period to move this? Or or do we just deny it and let it run its? I'm looking for guidance, yes.
He is under violation right now. This came in as a complaint. We got an online complaint, and we went out to the property, and then he's received his first notice of violation. And once he came in, I told him he needed to go before the board in regards to the 50-foot strip where they were located and the variance from the side property line. So he is in violation before even coming to the.
We typically, our violation process typically runs for between 60 and 90 days, 30 days for one. Are we still doing 30 or are we doing 60 now? For the 30 for the first violation, 30 for a second violation, and then we'll send occasionally a notice to pursue court action. If someone's not working with us and within 90 days, we would turn it over to the county attorney for court action. If you wish to give them additional time to move the locales, that's within your purview to do so.
Mr. Jennings, do you have, we have a motion and a second tonight. We haven't voted yet. We're still discussing.
I don't think y'all need to do anything else because Ms.
Okay.
Maggie started the process.
All right, thank you. All right, well, we have a motion and a second to deny, so we'll vote. Everyone in favor of the motion to deny, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And the motion denied.
I have a question about the motion. It was, I wrote down that it was denied based upon circumstances, testimony that was given, and staff recommendations. Is that correct, Mr. Crockett?
I'm not considering what statements were made when not sworn in.
Okay. So
What we're obligated to do. They're sworn statements.
based upon in-person testimony under oath?
Mine, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Are you good, Tom?
I am. I just wanted to make sure I understood the motion.
Absolutely. All right, moving along, we're ready for case 4193. Garner Construction, on behalf of B.V. Lawson Jr., is requesting a variance of 30 feet from the rear yard setback requirement of 40 feet. The existing structure is 10 feet from the rear property line. The variance will allow the existing deck to be enclosed into a sunroom. The property consists of 4.85 acres and is zoned A1 agricultural. Staff recommendations on case 4193.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a variance of 30 feet from the rear yard setback requirement of 40 feet. The existing structure is 10 feet from the rear property line, which backs up to the U.S. Corps of Engineers property. Because the structure is already existing and staff sees little negative impact if the variance is approved, staff can recommend approval.
All right. Who do we have here representing case 4193?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Jerry McFarland. I'm the Commissioner of the 5th District and also the Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Committee of the Commission. It's so good to see you, Miss Sonia. Okay, thank you. A little history on this particular piece of property. I've been in it many times. B.V. Lawson Jr. is a lifelong friend of mine. The Old Hickory Lake was impounded in 1958, I believe, and the take line was for the lake was done at that time, and many structures, including this one by a previous owner, was built on that property. In probably the mid to late 70s, the lake was resurveyed by the Corps of Engineers, and a higher take line was taken, which took in about 10-foot corner of the existing building, which was built by a previous owner. And so that made some issues with the Corps of Engineers. All issues with the Corps have been settled by Mr. Lawson. There's no issues there whatsoever. The entire structure is a two-story structure except for one room, and that's this particular room that was previously on Corps property, but now on his property. There'll be no larger footprint. He simply wants to go straight up over that room, basically with a glassed-in sunroom. So I asked the committee to go ahead and approve this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else wanting to make a comment? Yes, come forward. Name and address, please.
I'm Brennan Simon with Garner Construction. The address is 770 Flippin Road. I'm representing the contractor. We're planning on just removing the deck, building a sunroom on top of it. Like Jerry said, there would be no additional footprint added, just going up, making that an enclosed space instead of just a deck.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else here that wishes to speak to this case? If not, we'll close the public comment period and turn it to the board. Any discussion or motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve based on staff recommendations.
Have a motion to approve?
I'll second.
And a second. Everyone in favor of the motion, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no. And the ayes carried. Motion approved. Next case will be 4194. Dino Noble, on behalf of Bobby Parton, is requesting to use the property for a storage and sales of explosives. Property is located at 2474 Chicken Road, parcel 14. Property consists of 149 acres and is zoned A1 agricultural. Get staff recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to use the property for storage and sales of explosives. Hermitage Explosives had utilized this property for the same purposes since the early 1970s at a minimum. The company is now changing ownership, but the use will remain the same. Given the use's legacy status, staff can recommend approval. This will be proceeding to the Planning Commission, should you approve it, with a site plan approval for a couple of new pieces of storage equipment, if you will, that are going to be placed on the property. But this largely is a grandfathered use from staff's perspective, and a legacy use that's entitled to certain protections. I believe that the new owners, in doing their due diligence, are just wanting it memorialized.
Okay. All right. Who do we have here representing case 4194? Yes, sir.
My name is Jeremy Nelson, 2474 Chicken Road, Lebanon, Tennessee. Thank you for taking the time to consider our proposal today. I'm here on behalf of Dino Noble to talk about the improvements that we would like to make. The purpose of these efforts are largely just to improve the working conditions for our employees. So we're in the business of supplying construction and mining customers in the area, which led to our acquisition of Hermitage Explosives in December of 2020. The business operates on two sites, one in Davidson County and one here in Wilson County. The property that we are talking about today, as stated, has been operated by Dino Noble, Hermitage Explosives, and Hercules Powder since the early 1970s, and the business has continually operated in the Nashville market since the 1930s. Our products are used by numerous local businesses in Middle Tennessee, including here in Wilson County, and our location helps to make housing and infrastructure more affordable for Wilson County residents than what it otherwise would be. So yeah, look forward to answering any questions that you might have.
I'm sure, I would have supposed y'all are heavily regulated,
We are,
by.
yes, sir.
That we probably, as a county board, don't even need to get into. But
Yeah, we are.
But just out of my curiosity, as far as transporting, and I think I've heard we've had some of this before, but as far as transporting things in and out, do you kind of have two different parts that are non-explosive? Do you mix them, or kind of talk us through that very briefly?
We do for certain products. So, we have products that are used that are explosives, as they said.
As they said, okay.
Yeah, and then we also have products that are considered an oxidizer in the form that they're stored in, and then they're transported to a construction job site or a quarry, and the product is mixed with another solution at the hole,
Right.
and then it makes it into a blasting agent at the hole, and it's pumped in from there. So.
All right. Does anybody on the board have any questions? Anyone else here wish to speak to this case? No? All right, we'll close the public comment period. Turning to the board. Any questions or comments? If you don't mind stepping back up, or I don't know, I'm sure you do. I don't want to rush through this because this is probably a pretty big deal. But I'm sure you made all kinds of setbacks and all kinds of standards.
So
like
we
that.
are.
You don't have to get into a lot of detail.
We are required by ATF to store explosives according to their table of distance requirements.
Okay.
So basically, what that does is it ensures that the amount of explosives that we're storing in any given area is the proper distance from any residence or public roadway. So, and they inspect us every 3 years. We just went through one in January, and everything went well, so.
Kind of just for the record, I would suppose you've got security to where the stuff's locked up to where it's.
Yes, absolutely. So the magazines are all double locked with hoods so that the locks can't even be cut. And there's, it's gated and locked, and it's a very secure location.
The magazines are basically storage containers that are secured.
Okay.
I didn't know this existed out.
Yeah.
You're regulated and somebody's always checking and.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We're regulated by ATF and DOT on the transportation side.
And it is a rather large parcel of property, I believe, almost 150 acres or
Yes, sir.
something other. And of course, you're kind of grandfathered in and using that status.
Right.
And staff could advise you, but if you were to go to subdividing and changing a lot of things, you could possibly lose some of that. Is that correct?
That's correct. If the property if the boundaries of the property modify, as I understand it, grandfather status becomes questionable.
Okay.
Okay.
Just do be aware of that.
Yes.
But I think that's part of why they're here, is to try to seek some kind of memorialized approval of their use
Right, okay.
over and above the grandfather legacy status.
Right.
All right.
Do you see any kind of changes at all made where you are?
As far as to the property or the property lines, no.
Whole situation?
I mean, just the improvements that we're looking to make.
Yeah.
So that, we're looking to improve the conditions for our employees. So, the old house that was used for an office by Hermitage Explosives, we're just looking to put, a modular office in and, make some changes, run water from the street and stuff like that to make it better for our workers, so.
Okay. And Tom, you recommend approval under the.
I mean, yes.
Is there anything that we're not covering on this? Any kind of commercial type?
No, I would have to refer to Mike if there's anything else that we've effectively told them that from a permitting perspective that we are viewing, and a zoning enforcement perspective, we are viewing them as a grandfathered usage, non-conforming usage under state law. They have chosen of their own accord to come in and request a more formalized use approval from this board. Is there anything else that you feel like we need to cover, Mike?
No, I'm just out of curiosity, Tom, the laws that the ATF the discussions we've had with them about people wanting to sell guns out of their house and that type of thing. Is the same set of regulations and stuff in place here? In other words.
It's not the same, it's not the same,
But we're gonna do it anyway.
yeah, I don't think it's the same enforcement division, if you will. I mean, I think they have specific criterion for
So for
explosive
firearms,
storage.
it's a federal firearms license, and we just operate under a federal explosives license. So, you know, it's the same ATF that regulates
Does
firearms
ATF
business.
require you to have permission from county zoning?
To make the changes, no, I don't, you know, I don't believe so. That's more or less, as Tom stated, you know, that's something that we just wanted to come in front of the board and sort of go through the proper channels to, you know, ensure approval, so.
Have you said that ownership, I thought I heard you say ownership had changed 2 or 3 times over the years.
The ownership of the business.
Have you done this before with us?
I don't believe so.
I don't know
don't believe the prior businesses did, so.
Yeah.
I don't think, but we have not.
We don't have any record of them ever.
We haven't made any updates or changes or required, you know, any building permits. Because of the improvements we want to make to the site, the stuff that we want to go in and get permits to do.
Tom, is the zoning correct for this usage? I know it's grandfathered in.
No, it's a non-conforming.
It's a non-conforming use.
Okay, so is that ever corrected or should be corrected?
Not for non-conforming use. I mean, they could go forth, if y'all deny them, they could go forth and still operate, from my perspective, unless Mike tells me different.
I think that's right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say hello. Sean Henry, I'm a land use attorney representing Dyno Nobel. Work with Mr. Jennings quite a bit, and of course Tom. And I think the first conversation we may have had was actually with Ms. Murphy about the property, knowing that they were going to need a permit to put the office trailer on there. And at that time, I think we were asking for any records of the history of the site because they've been there since 1970, early 1972, and there really wasn't any history. And so as we looked further into it, we felt like it's an agricultural zone property. The only way to make it legitimate under zoning as a conforming use would be to rezone it to industrial. Highly unlikely the county commission's going to put industrial zoning on this whole property. And so we're here under the state law, which is Tennessee Code Annotated 137208, which allows a use that was being performed prior to the zoning, in this case coming into effect before the county adopted zoning law. The state law allows a business to continue to operate and in this case expand. And those are the provisions that we're here under. So we felt like it'd be a good idea to sort of get the record straight in your system that this has been an explosives operation, and it's continuing to be in operation, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Tom, what about the issue of not expanding a non-conforming use, or I don't know.
They can expand it on property. They are permitted under non-conforming use law to do so.
All right.
And in fact, that's why they have a site plan going to the planning commission. I don't know if it's magazine, I think it's more of a hopper type piece of equipment for one of the stabilized compounds they have on the property to be able to load into trucks to take off site. And then, as they stated, make it more reactive or explosive at a particular blasting site that they're contracted to do.
Do we not have, is there another one of these in the county? Because we've had
No.
come before us that was storing dynamite. Wasn't these guys?
No, I had thought, and in my initial conversations with Mr. Henry about this.
I thought it was over on Commerce Road or something.
When Dyno Nobel came in, I had thought this site had been before y'all before, but in looking back through the records, it's not. We've just talked about other previous editions of equipment. Now, one on Commerce Road, I'm sure we've had some other explosive
And it might have been
materials requests.
temporary, I don't know. Right. Okay.
Yes, I know there was one over off of in the Beach Log Roads part of Pike area at one time, but that got denied.
Same area as this. I remember it's been several years ago.
Yeah.
They were coming in asking for the initial use on a piece of property that wasn't zoned for it, and he got denied.
Right.
It was in the same, I'd say within 3 or 4 miles of there.
All right, well, back before the board. Any more discussion or motion or any questions, comments? I will make a motion that we approve case 4194, based on the testimony that was given here, staff comments, and primarily just the fact that it is grandfathered in.
I'm a second.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion? Everyone in favor, vote aye. Aye. No, and the motion carries.
Did someone vote no?
No, it was unanimous. No. All right, thank you, guys. All right, moving on to case 4195. Get my right page here.
Yeah, you can have it.
4195. Rick Miller is requesting a variance of 5 feet from the east side setback requirement of 15 feet. The request will allow the addition to be 10 feet from the east side property line. Property is located at 5444 Vanderbilt Road. Property consists of 25,950 square feet and is zoned R1 residential.
Mr. Chairman, this applicant is requesting a variance of 5 feet from the east side yard setback requirement of 15 feet, leaving 10 feet to the property line. This does happen to be an older tract of record, with the lot being created in October of 1952. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval.
All right, case, who we have here representing case 4195, Rick Miller.
Rick Miller, 5444 Vanderbilt Road. Morning.
Anything you'd wish to add or say?
It's pretty simple, just a garage addition. The front, I'm 15 feet. The backside, I'm a little over by 5 feet, so.
Any questions? Any comments from anyone else on case 4195? Not will close the public comment.
I have a question.
Yes.
You stated on your plot plan that it was a 2-story garage with living space above.
Right,
What kind of living space?
A bedroom.
A bedroom? Okay.
Yeah, it was originally a 3-bedroom, and this house was built in the 60s. So the bedrooms were 10 by 10, so we took 2 bedrooms and combined it into one on one side of the house. So,
Thank you.
no problem.
Back to the board. Any discussion, motion, questions?
Make a motion upon staff recommendation to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a second. Everyone in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
Who was the second?
Crockett.
And the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Case 4196. Ashley Doe Carmo is requesting an additional variance of 7 feet from the north rear setback requirement of 30 feet. The applicant received a variance of 13 feet from the north rear setback requirement of 30 feet for a proposed addition on April the 20th, 2023, allowing the proposed addition to be 17 feet from the north rear property line. The additional variance will allow the proposed addition to be 10 feet from the north rear property line. Property is located at 200 Sandra Court, Lot 282. Property consists of .549 acres and is zoned R1 residential.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting an additional variance of 7 feet from the north rear yard setback requirement of 30 feet. This will mean the proposed structure addition would be permitted to be 10 feet from the rear property line. When considering previous variances granted in addition to this 7-foot variance request, the applicant received a variance of 13 feet from the north rear yard setback requirement of 30 feet for a carport that was constructed in April, or that was proposed to be constructed on April 20th of 2023, allowing the carport to be 17 feet from the north rear property line. Again, this would be an addition or attached structure proposal that would be placed within 10 feet of the rear property line once previous variances are taken into account with this request. This is not an older tract of record, and while the property can be considered an irregular shaped lot, it is staff's opinion that the proposed construction, along with the previously granted variances, exceeds the building constraints of the lot. Given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval.
Who do we have here representing case 4196?
Good morning, Ashley DuCarmo, 200 Sandra Court. We haven't done any construction yet. These were all we were applying for variances to see what we were permitted to do. So on the side, if you look at the picture, kind of where the white car is on the driveway, this carport will come off the side of the house. Yes, sir, right there on the side, and it'll allow us to just have some parking space right there, open carport. We wanted to change the plans a little bit so it fit better and looked a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, so we didn't have so much attached. So we're just gonna do that one carport on the side.
We've already talked about the irregular shape, which really doesn't have an impact on their addition. What does have an impact on their addition is this is considered a corner lot. So by our zoning ordinance, the way our zoning ordinance is structured, on a corner lot, you have two rear sides. And you don't have a orthodox side yard setback.
Yeah, we have 30 foot all the way around, where I'm just asking to have the same 10 foot my neighbor has.
That was going to be my question for staff. What is the side yard setback?
Well, this is R1?
Yes.
It's 15 foot typically.
Oh, is it 15? Okay.
But if it's an attached structure, if it's detached, then the detached structure has to be at least 8 foot from the house, and then it can be 10 foot from the side if it's a detached accessory structure. But for an addition to the principal structure, which an attached carport would be, it would need to be 15 feet.
And what are they asking?
For 20.
They're asking to be within 10 foot
Of the property line.
of what we would say would be the side property line, but staff has to look at it as a rear property line because it's a corner lot.
Right.
So I don't know, is that?
Yeah.
Instead of being, her neighbor would have to be 15 foot, and she wants to be within 10 foot, but she has to be more than that because staff considers it to be a two rear lines, but anyway.
Yeah.
And
Now,
we've talked to all our neighbors, nobody has a problem. Of course, nobody's here, so.
Is there anybody else here that wishes to speak to this case?
So the carport will be attached to the house?
It will be attached to the house, but it will be open, so we will leave enough space. I've already approved it with septic. I got a septic approval letter, which I have a copy of that if it's not in the packet. I've added every structure we wanted to do. We did that before the variance, but it will be open so that we can drive through, big enough for our truck and trailer to come through.
Is there any harm in this going up? I know that's the variance, but emergency vehicles, fire, anything like, is there any harm about us approving?
I mean, on a corner lot, I would think EMS would have, then I don't know that EMS, sometimes they're here, but I don't see them here today. I don't think they would have trouble accessing this property.
Yeah, there's no utilities to the back of the property. Our septic is on the side corner on the street with a Lexus. Power pole is where the car is parked on the street. So there's no utility lines or anything like that. We had all that marked before coming and applying.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Have you spoken to the neighbor at 204?
Miss Pat Robinson. Yes, sir.
They're on board?
Yeah, she's on the side of the house that I'm asking, and I've also talked to the neighbor with the pool because we had got another variance for an addition we want to do on that side, and I took the courtesy of talking to him. Said, hey, you're going to get a letter. Let me explain to you what we want to do. So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Any more questions? If not, we'll close the public comment period and looking to the board.
I'll make a motion that we'll approve.
All right, have a motion to approve, and I will second that motion to approve, and I will base that, if you'll accept it, I'll amend it to base that on the fact that it is a corner lot, and the zoning kind of looks at that as having two rear yards. Do you accept that amendment?
Accepted.
Okay. All right, we have a motion to approve. Everyone in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. next case would be case 4197. Cellcat Title Holdings Incorporated, on behalf of IGE Transportation Incorporated, is requesting to use the property for a Southeastern Line Constructors Apprenticeship and Training School. Gets to be a mouthful. And requesting a variance of 15 feet from the height requirement of 35 feet. The variance will allow the office and classrooms to be 50 foot in height. Property is located at 299 McCrory Place. Property consists of 39.41 acres and is zoned R2 suburban residential. Staff recommendations of 4197.
First, let me explain a little bit, because the property's big enough, you can't kind of see the context of where this is. This is a little road called McCrory Place, and if you take McCrory Place northeast, it intersects with McCrory Road, and McCrory Road crosses over 840 as an overpass. This is 840. Right across here is a subdivision. I believe it's called the Oaks of Glayville. Subdivision off of Lone Oak. So this is on the opposite side of the interstate. This property is formerly a farm piece of property. It's zoned R2, which at this point is a medium-density, single-family residential district, predominantly for the primary permitted uses, along with farming. The applicant is requesting to use the property for Southeastern Line Constructors Apprenticeship and Training School, and is requesting a variance of 15 feet from the height requirement of 35 feet, so that their building can be 50 feet instead of our maximum height in the R2 district of 35 feet. And if you're thinking about linemen, they have to be trained on how to climb poles and things like that, so if they're wanting to be out of the weather and train, they need a building that's a little higher. Schools are a listed use on appeal, so they are a listed use on appeal in the R2 zone district. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval of the school use. With adequate fire safety and suppression measures, staff can also recommend approval of the 15-foot height variance. I was going to ask my staff, Christopher, have you had any conversation with Mr. Cowan, Fire Marshal Cowan?
There's a letter
Yeah.
in our packet I think he signed off on or something.
Yeah, I knew that he'd had some.
In our packet that he,
Yeah.
that he, from him, I think he signed off on it or something.
Okay.
Can you, just for me, can you clarify just a little bit on the R2? Seems like we don't have a lot of R2 zoning, so what?
No, sir. When it was zoned, when it was rezoned to R2.
What is allowed there?
Well,
like.
Yeah, when it was initially rezoned, it was a multifamily district. So it was a high-density residential district that allowed 10,000 square foot single-family lots, but it also allowed up to 12 units per acre in multifamily attached dwellings, but you would have had to go through this board to get approval for that multifamily product.
About apartments when you're talking.
Yes.
Okay.
However, I can't remember if it was 2022 or 2023, the county commission chose to rework the residential zone districts. R2 is now a single-family residential zone district that allows 20,000 square foot single-family lots, and the multifamily allowance that was allowed in R2 was shifted to R3. So R2 would be a medium-density residential district, allowing 20,000 square foot single-family lots now as the primary use. So your alternative here would be to see a subdivision go here.
With a house.
Yeah, with houses.
Two houses per acre, roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
And then what is the sewer? I guess is there public sewer to this side, or?
That is something that they will have to
address. Okay.
Okay. And the applicants are here if you would talk to them about what they've done to date.
All right, who's here to represent 4197?
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Haddad, and Mr. Brent Hall, local, with me here. He's on my board. So we're a lineman training center, and zero cost to the students. Basically, our organization covers the cost of their education. and we put them to work with one of our contractors. We have locations in Puerto Rico, in Florida, in Georgia, and now we're wanting to put one here in Lebanon, Tennessee, so we can service the TVAs and some of the other power companies in this area. For the height variance that we're asking for, we basically have the students, or we call them apprentices, they're our apprentices, for a certain amount of time every time we bring them in for training. And if it's raining outside, it kind of takes away from that time that we have to train. So we need a building like you see in some of our other locations that is tall enough to where we can have poles inside of it for them to climb when the weather is not cooperating with us, if you will.
That happens quite a bit around here in the middle of winter.
Yes, yes, especially in Georgia and in Florida as well. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have for me about our operation, the company, and who we are, what we do.
Can you or Mr. Brent address sort of the activity levels here? And I failed to mention, in just doing a quick math calculation, this could be by math, notwithstanding any sewer restrictions or anything else, you could get approximately 65 homes here under current zoning. But in terms of activity levels, in terms of what they've talked with us about, if I recall correctly, you bring in classes of apprentices to train at approximately 1 to 2 week periods, and they actually bunk there, their keys are taken up, and they're on site.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we get our apprentices in to train, there's not a lot of movement after they get there because we cater their food, and we don't want them out and about. We house them, as some of the pictures will show our other facilities. We feed them, we house them. We don't want them running around all over town. So once they drive in, the traffic ends there, basically. And, we average anywhere from 30 to maybe 60 at a time, and that's it. So that's about as much traffic as you're going to see from us.
What would be the maximum number that would spend a night there? Apprentices, worker, everybody. What's the maximum number that would be living on site?
Currently, let me give you an example. In Georgia, for instance, we 30 to 40 right now. Even though we can sleep 200 in the dormitory in Georgia, that's what we're permitted to sleep. We don't ever get to that number because we're not going to take up 200 men from the field at one time to train them. So we do this, in small numbers. But, let's say 50 maybe, if we, just to be conservative.
Where do they come from?
All over the Southeast. We cover the entire South. Yes, ma'am.
They're allowed anywhere at all to come here?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hall, you did a pretty good job in my discussion with you. Can you elaborate a little bit on where these folks both are coming from and sort of what their end result is in terms of partnerships with local electric companies, that kind of thing?
I'm Brent Hall. My official title is International Vice President for the IB, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, District 10, which is Arkansas, Tennessee, North and South Carolina. I also serve as a trustee for the CellCat training fund.
And full disclosure, he's my neighbor.
Yeah.
He lives in Wilson County.
Yeah, I live on Bethlehem Road, right down the street from Tom. We discovered that in our it shows how much he's working and I'm working. You wave at people going down the road. It's unfortunate that society's that way now. But official, that's my official title. But I'm a journeyman lineman. I'm a product of the CellCat training program, where I worked at as a lineman for 20 years. the training program is a joint effort between the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers and our contractors and customers that we supply, that we train linemen for. And the school, right now, the school in Georgia, it's the only training facility for Kentucky south all the way to Puerto Rico. So you're talking, we got 11 states. Well, yeah. And yeah, if you count the Virgin Islands, so 9 states and two territories. It's always been my dream for us to get another facility that's more centrally located to the 4 states that I serve. It just so happens that the Murfreesboro, Lebanon area is the middle of, if you go from Fort Smith, Arkansas to Myrtle Beach or Charleston, where my territory goes, this is the center of the district. And so that's why we were looking at this area. That piece of property looks like it would suit exactly what we need. I can attest that we run a tight ship. Danny, like I say, when the apprentices come in, they're there for a 2-week, 3-week maximum period. They come in, they're housed there. They're not running the streets. And it's very low traffic, a whole lot less traffic than you would have. You're talking about 3, maybe 4 times a year instead of having 70 houses, 2 cars per home. I don't know, 4 trips a day. I don't know what the formula is, but a whole lot less traffic. But we think, I'm positive it'd be a great thing for the community. Give a lot of young men, young ladies an opportunity for a career, and that's about it.
Do people come to here just like I graduated high school or not? Or do they have to have any training, or can just anybody?
No, that's where we go out and recruit it to high schools.
So you get them.
On the side, the IBEW, the local unions like our one in Nashville, they go out and recruit it to high schools and offer this as an alternative to get into, instead of going to college, get into a craft. And like I said, I'm a product of that about 40 years ago, of this program, and they come in, they're interviewed, they take a test, aptitude test, they're interviewed by the committee, they enter into the program, and for no cost at all. The first day they go, I tell everybody, I can take an 18-year-old high school graduate, and when they're accepted into this program, they're getting paid the first day. The first day they go to work, they're getting a paycheck. They've got health care paid at 100%. They've got 2 pensions, 2 defined benefit pensions, sometimes 3, paid at 100%. They get 4 years worth of training, and then when they're done, currently, average lineman's making $175,000, $200,000 a year, and they don't owe anybody anything. So it's
I got out of high school.
it's yeah. Well,
to add to what he's saying, the 18-year-old kid that will get out of high school will make upwards of $70,000 a year right off the top. Okay, and most of that doesn't even include the additional benefits, like 20% in a 401k. That's 100% funded for them as well. So it's really good for the community.
I tell people all the time we are our own worst enemy, because we try to get the word out as much as we can. Our school is, like I say, it's no cost to the students. There are schools out there. There's one south of Chattanooga, another one here in Tennessee, and they charge upwards of $25,000 for someone just to go through the school, so then they can come get into our program. We do it all in one setup, so at no cost.
That all sounds, I mean, sounds really, really good and really interesting, but maybe getting back to the actual logistics on the ground. So is there public sewer and so,
Well, there is
maybe even like we need to get into a site plan or something?
There's a sewer line that I believe may run across this property.
It is. It's interesting. There's a sewer main that has an easement through this property right along Interstate 840. We've not made formal a request to use that sewer line. I know that we can ask to put in a pumping station. We've been told we hadn't made the formal request. The other alternative would be to put in a step system, which we've checked with wastewater, and they said, of course, the procedures you got to go through with that. It's 42 acres. We're pretty confident that we could pull that off. If we can't, the sewer line would be great. We've got someone that's doing
We did a phase 1 study.
phase 1 study.
I wouldn't just assume because you got.
Oh, no, it's in
Wilson County.
It's in Gladeville.
I live in the Glade.
It's in Gladeville. I mean,
One road over from McQuarrie.
I've always heard people say there's only one rock in Wilson County. It starts in Nashville and goes all the way to Carthage. So, but that, I mean, that's
Top of the rock.
right. So, but our first thing would be to actually ask if we could put a pump station in and go into that sewer. That would be the easiest thing.
Gary, to answer your question, they will have to go before planning commission for a site plan.
Okay.
And that's when all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Sewer worked out by then.
Right. So we don't have to nail all that down right in here with this board.
They'll still have to go through planning commission.
Okay.
They're just asking.
Yeah, and depending on the avenue they take for sewage disposal, they may also have to take a visit before South Wilson Plan Sewer Access Committee.
And then in regard to that, we don't probably need to get into, or do we need to get into the commercial requirements as far as if any landscaping or any, do we need to get into any of that?
I have mentioned that to them, that was typically a requirement that this board seriously considered on non-traditional residential uses in residential zone districts. I think their answer to me was they want it to look nice as well, and that may be evidenced in their brochures they've given you about their site in Peachtree City as an example. I think it's in Peachtree City, Georgia, isn't it? Noonan, Georgia, I'm sorry.
We are a little bit.
Next door to Peachtree.
We will require landscaping.
Okay.
With their
Okay.
site plan. It'll be up to the planning commission at that board to accept that landscaping plan as part of
Okay.
that, or if they want something more robust.
I think they have mentioned, and Brent, I'll let you talk to this, but I think like their main classroom building may, if you look at the one in Noonan that I think they probably gave you pictures of, is tilt-up concrete or brick or something like that, but they'll have like the training room for inclement weather, or the training building for inclement weather, they may prefer to have it metal.
And I did speak with the, not fire marshal, but the letters in there. I spoke with him on the phone. He sent me a email, and he basically said that as far as that, because my question was, and it came up in our discussions with Tom, was because the height of the building, and he says, when you decide you get an engineer, he'll know whether it needs fire suppression, what type of suppression. But he says, as far as the height of the building, he said, if we had a fire, he said, we can handle a 50-foot building. So.
Yeah, his comment says, Fire Marshal Daniel Cullen, the height should not be a problem if you can get it through the appropriate board. So obviously, he does not have a problem with the height.
And as far as that, it's 42 acres. We're very fluid on where, and I know that would be in front of the planning commission, I assume. If they wanted that particular, the other buildings would only be just standard height for the classroom and the administration building. But as far as that 50-foot building for the indoor pole yard, we're very fluid wherever they told us to put it. I mean, if they want it out by the interstate or they want it hid behind the trees, that site plan we put together is just something that we had to have buildings put on it somewhere, so.
You had to have a plot plan considered.
Yeah, we're pretty fluid on that.
Tom, I've got one question. I guess it's for you, but the last statement you made in this recommendation is talking about fire and safety. Mr. Cowan would handle all that, correct? We don't need to address that in any kind of motion.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
Once your students get there, how long do they stay?
It all depends on what the project is, what we're training them for. If we end up doing a line college, for example, like a pre-apprenticeship, that's something the government Department of Labor is liking these days, this term pre-apprenticeship. If we end up doing that, it'll be anywhere from 10 to 15 weeks. But on a normal scale, 2 or 1 week.
So the pre-apprenticeship, is that what we're talking about, where you may do like a high school cooperative effort?
Something
like where
like that, yeah.
They can get some sort of pre-certification coming out of high school?
Right. We train them for 10 straight weeks, and then they go straight to work, after they finish.
I live close to you, in fact, one road over. You're fixing to do this.
I'm sorry?
If you do this, I live where you are, one road over.
You're very familiar with this.
Very
It's your
familiar
backyard,
with this,
okay?
yes.
We
know
heard that
exactly
that
where
property's
is.
got a little history.
Yes. And the folks out there, it's a very low-key neighborhood out there. They're going to be very concerned about the students out there. So you running a tight ship, that they are not allowed to run around the neighborhoods or travel up, down through there, the folks are going to be concerned about that. So you just got through saying y'all run a tight ship.
We do. We send them down the road if they misbehave.
What they've told us is they take up their keys, which sounds almost like the military,
We will, I know this sounds harsh, but we will send them down the road if we even catch them in their car after they parked and got inside the building.
Well, that's good, though.
What would be your hours of operation for the school going?
Currently, 8:30 to 4:30. Yeah, currently is what we operate on. And when we have training classes, they may be out there till it starts getting a little dark, maybe like 7 o'clock or so. But
Training after hours with spotlights.
no, well, we haven't done that yet, so I don't see us starting that.
They do have some outdoor storage needs on occasion. If they get delivery for different things, like transformers they need to practice on, or underground utilities, which they also train on, is what they've told us.
Do we need to be concerned or nailed down as far as the capacity, I think he said 30 to 40 people or something, but he also said
That's
they had a
that's
facility
entirely.
in Georgia that would house maybe 200.
Yeah, I think he's probably talking about the fire marshal approval for the occupancy for the building, but that's entirely up to you. I think that's within your purview to consider, Mr. Chairman.
And I understand you probably don't have an official site plan. What do you foresee as being capacity dormitory-wise? What would you like to have?
What I'd like to have is, 2,000-3,000 apprentices in the program. No, I would, I don't see me doing anything more than 50 to 100 if we grow that large at some point. Right now, we can sleep 200. We've been in operation since 1965, and we still haven't put more than 50 people in our 200-person dorm yet. We just don't have we don't have. It takes a lot of instructors to teach.
And let me ask, so if we were to approve this and if all this were to come about, how big a dorm are you wanting to build on this site? 200 capacity or 50 capacity? What are you wanting to do?
We wouldn't do 200 on this site. It would be less than 100, I would say.
Less than 100, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if there's anyone else here that wishes to speak or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, all right, please, yeah, we've had a long discussion, but yes, please come forward.
My name's Joe Murray. I live at 1186 McCrary Road. I back right up to this property.
Right here?
Yeah.
That's McCreary Place.
That's it, right there. One question I have is are you going to do a CDL school?
We have somebody that does CDLs for us in the Tennessee area, but we're personally not.
You're not going to do CDL school on this property?
No, we're personally not.
Okay. Well, is anybody going to do CDL training on this property?
Not that we know of. I mean, if we're doing it, we're not doing CDL.
Okay. Okay. The only reason I ask is McCrary Place won't handle tandem axle high lift trucks. It just ain't going to work. And I own one personally, so I know. So that's the only question I had about the CDL.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that to our attention. Good question.
I mean, it's tough traffic there.
Right.
What made you think they were going to?
Well, I've talked to other linemen who've been
Linemen
to other
have-
schools, and that's where they got their CDL.
Yeah, they've got to have CDLs to drive.
Yeah.
You have
to have
a CDL.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
The large,
Line
the tandem axle bucket trucks with a 60-foot lift, that's a CDL vehicle.
Okay.
Anything over 26,000 GVW is a CDL vehicle.
No, we will have those.
And stick a trailer behind a 5500 Ford or Dodge, and you need a CDL.
What did you say, sir? You said you will have what?
We will have those type of trucks on property.
To train on?
On the property.
Yeah, as long as they're not running up down that road.
Not on the road, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you got to run them down the road one time. That's it. Once when they get there and once when they leave, and that's it. Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, please come forward. Give us your name and address, please.
Good morning. My name is Courtney Bressler. I live at 1630 McCrary. It's the long property on the south side of the map that's adjacent.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for clarifying the R2 residential. As now, this doesn't qualify for that zoning, so I feel like they would have to rezone for that. And also, I was unaware that it would be an overnight dormitory situation. A previous case for Airbnb was about 8 people on septic. You're talking to potentially 200 students in a dorm room situation in something that's zoned for R2 residential. Also, McCrary Place, where it meets McCrary Road, is a very narrow street. There are no stop signs. There's no painted lines. You are 1.8 miles from Gladeville Elementary, and I think you probably already know there's traffic issues every morning and every afternoon with that already. McCrary Road is primary driving, but it's also recreational cyclists that come down the road. There's recreational horse riding that comes down the road. And every weekend, it's a back entrance to the super speedway. So the increased traffic and the increased dormitory concerns me as a resident that's adjacent there with 2 small boys that play in those woods as well. And just as I'm reading it right now, the 50 feet height variance is probably like a 4 to 5 story building, depending on where the ground level starts, which would be visible from my property as well as my neighbors. So those are my concerns right now.
I will clarify, I think if this board were to approve it, they would not have to be rezoned.
It would stay as R2,
Yes, it would be.
which is the duplex townhome.
No, it does not allow that, but at present.
Right, but this
When I
is-
started out was, when
Okay.
it initially got rezoned R2, it did allow those things.
It's still R2 though, right?
But it is still R2. They changed the R2 allowances, they being the county commission, changed to a single-family 20,000 square foot lot size minimum.
Okay.
And based on that, you could get approximately 65 to 70 lots on the property.
Or duplex.
Not duplex, just,
first.
or duplex, you are correct.
Okay.
I forgot about that. But you get approximately 65 to 70 single-family homes on the property.
And would they need to rezone for a for-profit vocational school?
No, that's what they're asking for is the
Okay.
use, because it is a use
Appeal for
listed.
use, okay.
It's a listed use on
Oh, it would
appeal.
stay.
Schools are.
And then most of these properties, as far as I'm concerned, they're all on septic currently. I'm on septic. They did say there's sewer on the 840, but I know they haven't run utilities.
We discussed that briefly. Of course, they probably could not do this on septic. You know, it would have to be
Right.
public sewer, whether it be a step system or
Yeah.
the line there. But yeah.
And they do have the sewer line available to connect for a school use, if you will. They also have the opportunity to renegotiate back to Water and Wastewater Authority to put in a step system. In all likelihood, if you saw residential development there, it would be on a step system.
Okay. Those are my concerns. The height variance is concerning just because of, you'd see it from the property. I understand its use. I just don't feel like it's the right area for its use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else care to speak? Let's let this gentleman back here speak who hasn't yet. Name and address, please.
My name is Aram Gokane. That was my wife, but I'm 1630 McCrary. Again, one of the things she highlighted is I wasn't aware that it was a dormitory. It's definitely concerning, especially if you're looking at anywhere from, I think it said 50 people would be on the site, and then dependent of students, dependent on, I don't know what the classroom to student ratio is, but you're talking about several people. There momentarily, there is no local access to anything. I know they said they take the keys away and they can't leave the site, but what assurances is there of where they're going to go? There's nowhere to walk from there. There's no place. I mean, I don't know. It seems.
They're not wanting them, and definitely, I think we as a board and county, we don't want them off-site. We want them to stay on-site.
For sure, but what is actually preventing them from going off-site? Taking their keys, so they're walking? If they did, how do you know? Is there background checks? What's going on?
I understand your concerns, but 50 or 60 homes come in there that people are going to be going any time of the day and night they want to go in and out of that subdivision. Something's going to go there.
Sure. No, that's fine.
I would see what's options are then if ladies, guys go in the dormitory and there's 50 of them and they're locked in there until they graduate from the program. I would think there'd be a whole lot less traffic, but you put a neighborhood in there and those people can roam around anywhere they want to any time of the day or night.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Come and go as they wish.
You're talking about a group of people that are residents of that area. They live there. That's their living quarters. You're talking now about people that are essentially an Airbnb, motel type condition when they don't live there. That is not their home. They can be from anywhere. I mean, they were saying that I think the closest school is in Georgia and then all the way up to Kentucky. You're talking about a very large territory of people that are coming from outside that have no vested interest of the community or of that area, and then are staying there for short periods of time with no access to local strip mall, access to anything if they were to walk. I mean, if they had to walk, I mean, our property is one of the larger property lines that they're on. I mean, it's just through the woods. It's the same on all the other properties. So, I mean, I understand they want to keep them there. I understand their intent, but we all know that's not always how it goes. So, yes, for a residency, I completely get it. Yes, there could be people there. I think you said up to 60 homes-ish.
Just based on the math, doing the
Yeah, you take that for a family of four, you're talking 240 people, you did it with the split it, it's 120 cars going in and out, 100%. You're going to get traffic. I don't think the road could even handle that, but separate from that, I mean, that's the concern. Like, that's a big concern. And then to second what my wife previously stated about the height of the building. I mean, we did move there because it was an open farm, more farmland, more rural. That's what we were looking for. Now off the back of our porch, we're going to be looking at a 50-foot tall building adjacent to our sightline. So that would definitely be of concern to us.
Thank you.
How far is your property from, like, isn't there rooms to go just south of this property?
So it's quite a ways. It's about I believe the rooms to go structure is about a mile south. Don't quote me. That's not. But it's a minute, the rooms to go.
Does it not connect to this property?
No.
No, the Spickard Road actually would be between here and there. And you don't front on Spickard Road.
No, our property is literally right there.
It fronts on McCreary over here.
Yes.
And then there's a few more lots, and then you get to Spickard Road that goes back and dead ends towards Interstate 840 to the south. So there's a few properties between here and rooms to go, or that development that has rooms to grow, Cedar Farms.
All right, do we have anybody else want to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Joe Murray, 1186 McCrary. And you can probably answer this, Tom. That's a commercial sewer that runs there.
Yes, sir.
And my understanding is you have to be a commercial venture to tie into it, i.e. a warehouse or whatever.
Yes, sir. We would consider a school of this magnitude one of two things. We would either consider it a civic institute or a commercial use,
Okay.
both of which would be given consideration by, for instance, the South Wilson Plan Growth Sewer Access Committee for connect. They'd have to request access and be granted it if it comes from Wilson County's portion of the capacity.
Okay, so basically that's their next step.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
If they go on that public sewer line, that's the next step. The other option would be, negotiating for a step, which is also a form of public sewer.
Anybody else have any comments from public? If not, we'll close the public comment period and look into the board. Any discussion, questions?
For full disclosure, I live on Bethlehem Road also. We've never met, have we?
Well, no.
Okay.
I usually, when I leave here, I gotta get on a plane and go somewhere else, so I'm not home much.
Another thing, I tried to get an IB, in the 80s, I tried to get an IBEW apprenticeship program. The line was so long, I went to law school.
I've got a question for Tom. As far as that's a commercial sewer, meaning a neighborhood could not tie on to that sewer?
No, sir.
That line was ran for the racetrack?
No, sir, but they could run a step system.
They could run a step system, which...
If they can find, and they've done it at least an initial environmental, I forgot what you called it, a tier 1 or whatever, that indicates they do have some soils areas on the
Right.
property.
And although a neighborhood probably wouldn't want to do the step system because they would eat up large portions
Well,
of their lots on that.
no, they could do it as long as they get more than 50 lots. They could do a cluster provision, and they can establish their own lot size. And as just doing the math using the cluster provision formula, from my quick calculation, they get about 65, 66 lots on 39.41 acres, but I heard them reference 42 acres, so.
And just for the record, if we make a action or ruling here in a few minutes, I mean, they've got to get proper sewer regardless
sir.
of what, I mean, that we're not.
Yes,
they've got
yes, sir. They've got to have some means of disposing of whatever sewage need they have. And then they'll also have to go through the planning commission for site plan approval.
Any more comments from anyone?
My concern, like I addressed you a while ago, my concern is your students. Not that I don't think that you're not gonna run a tight ship, but living out there, being out there, just like I addressed you a while ago, my concern is your students staying on that site, and not leaving. I know that's gonna be difficult to make sure, but is there somebody there all the time to make sure that those students, stay there and watch over them and they do not leave your facility?
So we have our instructors there for the majority of the time, but when it comes to bedtime at night, our instructors are gone and the apprentices are there by themselves. I'd like to guarantee you that they will not leave, but if they do leave, they've left for the night, they've left forever, okay? So they're no longer in the program, period. So they know that. We have a ton of security systems in our arsenal that is watching the place, every nook and cranny of it. We see who comes, we see who goes. Every door is a keyed door, so we know who comes in, who comes out at any given moment, electronic key door. So we have a lot of security in play, but I can't sit here and guarantee you that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't. I understand that.
Yeah.
I
And
understand that.
I think you touched on this briefly. You do screen the applicants as far as who comes in there? You screen that and?
Well,
Or what is that process? Is who's allowed in, who's not allowed in? I mean, if they have a history of
yes.
whatever, not good,
Yeah, if they,
drug use or DUI, whatever that would be, would that be something, would that applicant possibly not get in for that reason?
We do look at their criminal background, but, you know, a previous drug charge or a DUI 7 years ago,
Right.
we're not going to hold that against
More
someone.
of an ongoing history.
Yeah, I mean, you done something bad, let's say, that a school can't have you around them, then we don't want you in our program.
I mean, from what I understand, it's more akin to like a college application process that,
It is, and it's very heavily regulated by the Department of Labor, so there's a whole lot that has to be done. So there's a lot of guidance against discriminatory behaviors of any kind and things like that. So it's heavily regulated, our industry is.
When would you like to be up and running? Or what's the goal?
You know, if we get approval, we'd like to get started, you know, as soon as we can, making our way to, you know, we'll probably build the first building. The dormitory may come down the road in a year or two, I don't know. But initially, we want to build the office classroom and the metal building, and then see how this develops before we build the dormitory. So it will be whether they have to stay in hotels in town or just the local talent that can go home every night at first until we, but we have the, we're able to build it tomorrow morning. If it has to do with money, we can do it tomorrow, the whole thing. So it's just our timing, not necessarily resources.
so if you chose to build it in phases and the dorm came later, given your policies, I'm assuming you would have some sort of shuttle service back to the hotels that the people are staying at or whatever, daily, if they were staying there for a 2-week period for a class, right?
Yes, we would work something out, absolutely. We want to be good neighbors. If you look at our Georgia facility, we have a big, huge apartment complex that butts to it. And we have never once had an issue with our neighbors, any of our neighbors whatsoever. I mean, we're quiet, we're low-key. And that I can tell you.
Comments from the board? Motions?
Tom, I guess this would come from the planning, the site plan, but as far as a fence around the property and/or noise barriers for the neighbors on the residential side, I guess that would all be considered in.
That would be something we will consider in site plan, but you guys have the purview to establish conditions on the approval that allow such a use to fit better into the character of the area. So you would have the ability to require a fence or noise reducing or light reducing criterion with regard to landscaping or what have you along the, I'll just use an example, the southern and eastern border or something, if that's what you wish to do.
How would we, I've never been on site, how would we, I don't know, regulate or stipulate in this board, like the 50-foot tall building, like did it be put in a less visible area or, less intrusive, how do we actually go about doing that? Same way with the noise and or lights or all that. How do we?
That's a little bit harder. Yeah. You just say that with the approval, if you were choosing to approve it, you would have to say something along the lines of, with the approval, we ask that the 50-foot tall building be placed in a less impactful area to neighboring properties.
One question, what is your operating hours? We could consider that.
Our office hours currently are 8:30 to 4:30.
It did say nothing after dark.
Okay,
No-
so-
Nothing under spotlights.
Yeah, but no lights outside,
No-
yeah.
No working under spotlights or floodlights.
Okay.
Tom, one more question. I know we've kind of wore this out, but it's kind of maybe a bigger deal. If the board were to approve this use 10 years from now, 15 years from now, these people are gone and it's on the market and they sell it, what is it?
What the
It's a dormitory?
Yeah.
I mean, what is the impact on that, or is that something that-
they would have to come back in with additional approvals if it's anything different than a lineman school.
Okay, that's where I was going. If they wanted to change it to something else, they would have to come back and get, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. All right, floor is open for a motion. After much discussion and going back and forth, I'm going to make a motion that we approve this use based on the staff recommendation, based on the testimony that was given here under oath. I'm going to make a motion we approve.
I'm a second.
I have a motion, have a second. And then I want to amend or add to my motion that when they do a site plan and the planning, that they try to put the 50-foot tall building, we're granting the use and we're granting 15-foot variance on the height. That's okay under one motion, Tom? Okay.
Yeah.
When they put the 50-foot tall building in, they try to put it in a location that's the least intrusive to the neighborhood. Is that clear?
Okay.
All right. You
Absolutely.
all right.
Is that going to be left up to staff interpretation at that time?
Yes. 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 All right, we have a motion and a motion to approve and a second. Is there any more discussion amongst the board? Anything else that we're not covering? No? All right, we have a motion and a second. We'll vote. Everyone in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposed? And it carries with ayes. Thank you. All right. I'm so disoriented. I don't know where all my paperwork's at now.
On 4198 now.
All right, is that the last one?
That's the last one.
All right, we've got one more. If y'all will bear with me, we'll try to get through it, and then we won't have to have a break. Anyway.
First house on the left.
I don't know where my notes are.
I have to go all the way up the hill where it dead ends.
We got one more case. If y'all will give us just a second here, we'll be ready for it.
Thank you, Brent.
Let me borrow your pen. I've lost mine. I've got recommendations. Yeah, thank you very much. All right.
Oh, that's already.
Secretary. All right, 4198. Charlie Dean, on behalf of Whitrick Property, is requesting to use the property for a parking lot for trailer storage and requesting a variance from the sewer requirements. The property is located at 1746 Sparta Pike. The property consists of 11.91 acres and is zoned I-1 light industrial. Staff recommendations. Thank you.
Just a moment. Get this forwarded to the right screen.
Okay.
Something, it seems like, yeah, that's kind of what I understand.
Okay, so the application is, or the applicant is requesting to use the property for a parking lot for trailer storage and requesting a variance from sewer requirements. I may have to back up and modify one of my comments here. Let me look at something real quick. Okay, so the trailer storage is not a listed use on appeal in the I-1 zone district. There are, however, similar permitted uses and uses on appeal, such as contractor storage yards and truck terminals. Therefore, staff can recommend approval of the trailer park usage, or trailer parking usage, not trailer park, I apologize. Trailer parking use. Staff cannot recommend approval of the sewer variance, but will note that the similar variances have been granted if the applicant was able to prove that the septic system was adequate.
All right, who's here to represent 4198?
Good afternoon, Charlie Dean with Dean Design Group here representing Donna and Rick Wichard. They own this property and they operate their current business, Fire Pit Art, in the building that you see on site. They will continue to operate that business on site. The southern part of the property, south of their existing structure and existing development footprint, is where they're proposing the trailer storage. Since the trailer storage is not going to have any buildings or structures, that's the reason we're requesting the variance from the septic, or the sewer, excuse me, from the sewer requirement. As you can see, this property is industrially zoned. The two properties to our east are industrially zoned. The property, or the...
Right here?
These are both in I-1.
Yeah.
And to the west, we abut the railroad right-of-way, and we have right-of-way to our south. So that is...
Is this the...
pallet company. Oh.
The access, does that go back to...
Sparta Pipe.
Yeah, I know it goes to Sparta Pipe, but does it goes across the tracks. Does it go to the industrial park that's being envisioned by the city?
I think that's north.
A little north?
I think the drive that you see that's coming down through there, it goes to a residence over there on that property to the south. You can see the gravel starting to kind of spread out down there.
Fair enough. And where are they wanting to do the trailer?
It's down in that field to the south of their existing business. Like I said, they will be on property. They will continue to operate their business at that location, just trying to find a good use for that property, that vacant area there.
Tom, in I-1, is it okay, I guess it's okay to have multiple uses on one property without subdivision?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And there's adequate access getting in and off the road?
Right, yeah, they have a current driveway coming in off Sparta Pike. You can see right there, so that access will just be maintained, and if it needs to be increased, it'll be increased.
Is it a paved access or is it gravel?
It's gravel.
It's gravel.
Yeah.
Should you approve this, there will be a site plan.
Would they not have to have their driveway paved?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well, it would just be if they're extending the use, correct?
Yes. It'll be where they make the new addition, that part will have to be paved unless they get a variance.
Right. What about the access to get to that, the coming in and out?
I don't think that I can require them to do that if that's already there.
But they're accessing, it's already there, but they're not using tractor trailer trucks to go in and out of it now.
No,
I
they're
think it
not.
would
That's
definitely need to be
That's something
paved.
that you can certainly ask.
Okay, okay.
Well, they do have large trucks that come in and out. I mean, they
We've had preliminary myself and Charlie have had preliminary discussions, and they're similar to what, now, we can't do anything on the existing access, because that's existing there. They may do something, commit to something on that, but that's
Right.
something we agree on. But the parking lot for the trucks, it would be similar to what you'd see at Big Rig down off Couchville Industrial is what they would be shooting for. Now, the planning commission will have to approve it, and it would be a dustless surface, so it won't be just gravel. But I believe he has on there crushed.
Yes, it's asphalt millings.
millings, yeah.
Yeah.
Something that would be, that the planning commission could interpret as meeting the paving requirements and be considered dustless.
Okay.
Yeah, the requirement is dustless, not that it be paved, and the millings would qualify as dustless.
But you'll not use the lane that goes back to someone's house, right? It will not be.
That's not the intent. It is in right-of-way, and if a road is extended there in the future, we may make an access to that.
They'd have to come in with a site plan for that, though.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I will point out, you guys again have the ability to affect additional conditions on the approval that allow it to fit better into the character of the area. If, for instance, if you were of a mind to require that the primary access be paved or dustless along with whatever you're proposing down here, you can certainly do that.
Okay. All right, is there anyone else here that cares to speak to this case?
That's the Wittrigs. They're here if you need to ask them any operational questions.
Any questions, comments from the board?
What's operated there now?
Fire Pit Art.
Okay.
They operate a business where I don't want to make it too simplistic, but they make fire pits, decorative. You can
Actually, kind of, they did one for the Olympics in Atlanta or
very high end
or elsewhere.
things. You can Google
In Canada.
Google it, firepitart.com, I believe, and just fantastic local business.
And I guess it varies, but, you know, there's a lot of parking lots here, or whatever, your trailer storage, you know, whatever you want to, it's a lot of them when you start adding them all up there. What, I mean, somebody lays a trailer there overnight, a week, a month, 6 months? How often are the people coming in? And I mean, do you rent it by the week, by the month? How do they rent, how do you do this?
There's not a tenant for it yet. The idea with this would be, obviously, this is a huge distribution hub. Everybody knows that Middle Tennessee is a huge distribution hub. So you have all kinds of businesses that need somewhere to put their trailers. So
you would rent it more to a business and not an independent?
Yeah, it's not a hey, come here and you know, drop your truck or you know spend the night or nothing like that. This would
It's
be
not
rented.
an overnight facility.
No.
For overnight habitation, I mean.
No, absolutely not. This would be for, they would probably contract with a business that needed somewhere to store their trailers while they were, you know, I guess waiting to be filled or had just been unloaded and needed to be dropped there for a little while. You know, many of these all across the area, like you said. I mean, this is.
Right, yeah, and I didn't really know the logistics on how they work. I didn't know. I'm a truck driver, but I live in town. Well, I come in and park my rig there for a weekend while I stay home. Or, I mean, you know, there's got to be there are places like that, I would assume, that are, but anyway, but this is not what you're really going to set this up for.
No. The idea would be that they would find one tenant that would lease the whole thing from them and operate like that.
And then regarding the waiver on the public sewer requirement, somebody's in and out there, I guess you're allowing them access to the bathroom facilities that are in the adjoining business, is that right, or how?
They won't need that.
They shouldn't need, okay.
They're just gonna come.
Right.
There's no time that they would spend time there.
Right. All right.
The pallet place, is that what's right in the front?
To the southeast is the pallet place. To the, I guess, just directly north of that is DRC.
Budget rental cars, they wash the rental, they get an agreement with Budget that they wash their truck.
So this is Budget Rental and this is the pallet factory?
I believe so, yes.
I know the southern business is the pallet company. Northern property is DRC Components, whatever that is.
There definitely is quite a bit of industrial development in the area.
Oh, yeah.
Zoning,
Yes, sir.
zoning for this property is industrial. Zoning for the adjacent properties is either industrial, railroad right-of-way, public road right-of-way. To the north is A1, the vacant piece, but of course, we're on the opposite side of the property from that A1 with our proposal.
All right.
We're 230 feet of road frontage right there. Am I reading correctly on this plot?
Ooh. Where did you get that?
On this,
I'm not sure.
No, that's part of it. 233 is what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
Road frontage.
Yeah, okay.
And we're just showing just a 50-foot right-of-way right there with that driveway right now.
You talking about on the south side? I think that's around 30 right now. I think that it does come out across from Poplar Hill there, so that that could be enhanced in the future. But right now it's 30 feet, or that it's 30 feet on GIS. Let me say that we don't have a survey on it yet.
I don't know if it's necessary, but if we put in there about stipulating that the entrance and exit remain where it's at now until this road is developed, because I know that's just a little path down through there, basically.
Well, I think Tom had said if they tried to use it, this other right-of-way, they would have to go back before the.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah, they would have to do something.
I'm good.
Right now, I'm not sure they have legal I mean, I don't know, but I don't think they have legal access to use it unless it's on their easement deed, which I haven't investigated at any great length because I didn't anticipate them using it. But if the time came that there was a public road there and they wanted to go back and have a secondary access, they could come back in with a site plan to do so. That would go to the planning commission, not this board.
All right, any more discussion or motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. And
Have a motion.
also, do I need to put in the sewer?
Well, they're asking,
Tank.
they're asking for, to waive the sewer requirements, so yes, you need to.
I'll make a motion, to waive the sewer requirements.
All right, we have a motion to approve the use and waive the sewer requirement.
That's correct.
Have that motion.
I'd like to make an
Do you have, wait, we have a second? Yes, Mr. Williams, we have a second. Yes, go ahead, Justin.
Can I make an amendment to that, that the access off of Sparta Pike be brought up to 75 foot wide and paved no further than 200 foot back off the road? That way we're not taking gravel on and off the road and the dust.
We
right
we
there at the
definitely
time.
we definitely need to address that it be dustless or be paved. As far as the width of it, I don't know, we can discuss that.
Now, were you saying 75 feet into the property or the?
Wide.
It won't.
Where we could get two vehicles in and out of there. I mean, if we've got a
Said
truck.
75 feet?
And a truck coming in, we at least need to be able to get one in and one out without having them set.
Let's get Tom's input and see
Well,
what.
typically, a commercial access would be no more than 35 to 40 feet wide.
This is TDOT road. TDOT wouldn't approve anything bigger than 35.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it'd be a 30-foot wide paved service if you're wanting a commercial entrance. And that would be plenty adequate, I think, with the appropriate turn radiuses that TDOT's going to have to permit.
I mean, 20 feet
Yeah.
would be adequate. The lanes going down the road are 12 feet
two
wide. Oh, yeah.
tractor trailers
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and then the amendment is to pave the entranceway and not address the width or.
I think the width will be fine.
Okay.
If he's saying it's 24 is enough, I would say they have at least enough.
So you're paving the entranceway how far back?
200 foot off Sparta Pike.
Just to give you more security, I mean, TDOT will, any work in the right-of-way has to be permitted under an entrance and right-of-way permit. That will be required to meet TDOT's regulations for that.
Do we need, and I guess I'm asking you, Tom, is 200 foot adequate? Do we need to require they pave it all the way back to the parking lot?
That's entirely up to you. The 200 foot would probably give it a place to shake off any gravel or whatever that they did cross. I do have a question about it, though. Are you fine with the dustless surface like the millings? Or do you want it paved?
I mean,
with an industrial section pavement?
What does the planning commission require? Do they require,
Well, the planning commission requires dustless surface.
They don't specify.
I'm okay with the parking lot being dustless, but I think that we need a solid surface. Coming off the main road.
You want the 200 foot to be paved and not to be?
Now, I mean, just so we understand, millings is just milled asphalt. So when it gets replaced, it's compacted. It's just a cheaper way to get, asphalt than getting new asphalt. You're essentially getting asphalt millings, putting it down, compacting it. So it's essentially pavement. So the durability of it can just be controlled with the depth of it. So we could put a deeper section if we felt like the tractor trailers would need a deeper section. But the difference between.
It's not that, it's the tractor trailers with 18 wheels on the ground picking up the gravels and putting them out on the highway. I mean, I've got to think about the motorcycle guys, the cars coming down through there, the windshields. I think a solid surface outside of millings. I mean, are you going to tar it and roll it and?
I mean, millings is asphalt.
I understand.
So once it gets compact, it looks like pavement.
Right.
I just want to make sure that.
I've got millings on my driveway. When it rains, they wash out valleys in them, and I've rolled them and.
Have they been compacted?
They've been compacted. So I think we at least need a solid surface coming off of the road right there.
Understood.
All right, are we clear, Tom, we're clear on all this?
So I'm stating that y'all are approving the use in the sewer variance.
We have a motion, yes, we haven't voted yet. Motion is second.
With approved use in the sewer variance with a paved entranceway up to 200 feet back from Sparta Pike with an industrial section for paving. That's what I'm hearing.
All right, everybody clear with this? All right.
Yes.
We have a motion, we have a second. You need to come up here and give your name and everything. Are you okay with me letting him speak, board members?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, come on up here and speak.
My name is Rick Wittrig, and Don and I own Fire Pit Art, which you see right there. Every single day, we have tractor trailers come in and out of that driveway, and I mean a lot of them, because we ship worldwide. If you went out there today, you wouldn't find a single piece of gravel on that road. I mean, I go in and out of that road every single day. There isn't a hazard associated with that. There just is not. So the extra cost that it's going to be to pave this is going to add extra cost to us for no reason. And I fully believe that this.
Well, you say no reason, but I think the county has paving requirements for commercial property. So, do they not, Tom?
Yes, sir.
I mean, there's a reason the county has that zoning ordinance in there. There's paving requirements for commercial industrial property.
So you're saying, Tom, that has to be paved?
That's the requirement on a commercial.
It's dustless or it has to be paved?
Dustless or paving. And
So dustless,
today is that the dustless surface, which would be the milled asphalt.
yes.
Is probably going to be acceptable for the parking area, but what they're asking for is a heightened industrial paving section from Sparta Pike 200 feet back.
Right, but it could be dustless. It does not have to be, under your provisions, does not have to be paved.
No, but if this board.
That's what I'm trying to, that's what I'm trying to make
approves it
happen.
With that condition.
Yes.
That's the requirement.
Yeah, I understand that's their purview and that's what, but I'm trying to negate.
You're requesting that the board remove the industrial pavement, and you'd rather it just be a dustless surface for 200 foot back.
Yes, yes, and in a perfect world, and later on, we would probably go ahead and do that, but the extra additional cost is going to make it another thing that might prohibit us from being able to make this actually happen.
That would take an amendment of your motion.
All right. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Now we're back to discussion amongst the board, so. As it sits right now, and we can discuss it, and we can amend and do whatever we want to do, but as it sits right now, we're requiring industrial paving for 200 foot. Are you sticking with that?
Sticking with that, yes, sir.
I've got a question for Tom. If the county requirements or state requirements, is it either or, pavement or millings?
No, it just says dustless surface.
Yeah, we may need to stick with what the county requirements are and not exceed that. I'm discussing this.
I'm not sure it would hold up if we did.
Exactly, that's what, right. If they appeal this at a higher court, and their court's gonna say, well, your county requirements are dustless, but you're making them go beyond that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you live with it just being a dustless?
I can,
All right.
as long as it's compacted and tarred and
Exactly.
not a problem.
Right. Do you want to amend your amendment to?
I will amend the 200-foot paving off of Sparta Pike.
Right. And we're still gonna have an amendment, 200 foot of dustless paving off Sparta Pike, but it's dustless. All right, we got all this clear? Everybody? All right. At this time, we'll vote. Everybody in favor of this motion, aye? Aye. Any opposed, no?
No.
And one no and 4 ayes. All right, and the motion carries through. All righty. I think that was it. Tom, are we done?
I believe so, unless y'all want to talk about something else.
Not really. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate all the help.
This has been very educational.
Meeting adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.